It's hard to overstate just how crazy and unexpected the weeks leading up to last night's primaries were in the state of Wisconsin. I mean, just look at what some of the polling looked like during the final few weeks of the campaign. It appeared that state assembly member and Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong had this race in the bag. She led the other candidates by very wide margins, but let this be a reminder to everyone that polls are not actually ballots, and polls are only as good as their bet on who will make up the final electorate of voters and about the snapshot in time. In the end, Hong came up short, losing by a razor-thin margin to Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, a candidate who last month actually dropped out of the primary race after falling to single digits in those polls I just mentioned. Now, just 10 days later, Crowley jumped back into the race after Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez dropped out following a campaign finance scandal. Things then appeared to take a turn for Crowley when Wisconsin's current, and I would argue, very beloved governor, Tony Evers, publicly endorsed him and campaigned with his heart out with him, too. But even still, the general consensus from pollsters to pundits was that Crowley needed a minor miracle to come out on top in this primary. He was up against Francesca Hong's grassroots organizing campaign and progressive platform, which mirrored what has excited voters in a number of other parts of the country. She campaigns on permanent affordability, things like subsidizing childcare, free school lunches, raising the minimum wage, and taxing the wealthiest. Crowley pitched himself as the moderate alternative. He campaigned on expanding trade apprenticeship programs, cutting regulations for entrepreneurs, investing more broadly in housing, healthcare, and schools. He also ran on his record as a Milwaukee County executive, his background as a community organizer where he got his start, and his record of working with Republicans in the legislature when he was in the state assembly. Now, what exactly led to Crowley's stunning political comeback? Whether his deep support was massively underestimated, probably. Whether voters were ultimately turned off by past tweets from his opponent about canceling Thanksgiving, probably that's true as well. And how pollsters truly fumbled this one, that's all up for debate. What I do know to be true is that the outcome should prompt some humility and reflection in how we're covering political races. More listening to voters and less to the hot takes online. And God forbid, don't listen to the Kalshi prediction market anymore. And what is really important here is less how we got here, and we'll talk about that, but more about the path forward. So we want to spend plenty of time with David Crowley to talk about not just how he got here, but how he plans to win in November and what he would want to do as governor of one of the swingingest states in every presidential election. But before I talked with him, I wanted to share a few of the things about him you may already know, but in case you don't, these are some of the things I've learned about him over the last 24 hours. As a kid growing up in Milwaukee, Crowley's parents both battled addiction. His family was evicted from multiple homes. Crowley has said his childhood inspired him to become a community organizer and later a state lawmaker. Even as a child, his family nicknamed him Governor because he said he wanted to, quote, serve my family before I actually sat down and started eating. Crowley began his political career as a campaign organizer, as I mentioned, and later served in the Wisconsin state legislature for 3 years before he was elected in 2020 to be the Milwaukee County executive, the top official in the state's largest metro area. And if he is elected in November, he will become Wisconsin's very first black governor. Now, all of that has been and may be a part of Crowley's pitch as he embarks on a unity tour across Wisconsin, where he plans to lay out his vision for the future of his party and for his state. Joining me now is David Crowley, Milwaukee County executive, and as of today, Democratic nominee for governor of Wisconsin. Well, thanks for being here. I'm sure you're exhausted and taking this all in, so I appreciate you taking the time.
Not a problem. And yes, I am exhausted. I'm probably running on about 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah, there you go. Well, this came as a shock to a lot of people, maybe not to you, probably not to your supporters, but how are you feeling about everything right now?
Honestly, Jen, it's still surreal. You know, I still remember, you know, sitting down in my hotel room in my suite with my family and literally biting our nails, pacing constantly to see these numbers come in. But about 1:30, 2 o'clock, while I was hanging out, not just with my family, but also with Governor Evers and his wife, we seen those numbers come. And it got a little emotional, you know, because my mother, I lost her about 3 years ago. She was my biggest supporter, and she pushed me every single time that I got involved in making my community better. And so it's still surreal. But I will tell you that the job isn't done. You know, we still have 84, 83 days left in this race to ultimately defeat a MAGA extremist and Congressman Tom Tiffany to make sure that we can defeat Donald Trump's legacy moving forward. We don't need his brand of politics here in the state of Wisconsin, and looking forward to electing Democrats just up and down the ballot.
I want to talk about the path forward here. I played earlier in the show a clip from, I think it was from last night or this morning. You've been speaking a lot around your 3 hours of sleep as well, where you talked about what you thought this meant. There's been so many hot takes out there, and it's been framed as this kind of battle between the center and the left of the center left of the party and progressives, between insiders and outsiders, progressives and moderates. But you've pushed back against that narrative. Again, I played it earlier, but what do you think the assessment gets wrong here?
You know, I think what folks are getting wrong is that people cares about the values. Do you share the same values? Can you build relationships? Are you authentic? And I think what's also important is, what have you done? You know, when you're running for a seat like governor, it's not just about the mission and the vision that you have for Democrats across this state. They want to know if you actually have the wherewithal, the expertise, the relationships to actually deliver on their behalf. But the message that we've been focusing on is that we have to stop reacting. We've been reacting to Donald Trump and responding to Republicans to the point they've defined who we are as Democrats. And when you think about Governor Evers' entire tenure, he's been one of the best damn goalies we could have. So we've always had to play defense, and we've forgot how to get off of our heels and play offense. And so, you know, as we come into this, new football season, we need to make sure that we're throwing the ball down the field and actually scoring on behalf of the residents that call this place home.
For people who are watching right now, who are just getting to know you, you have this really powerful story of what drove you to become a community organizer and public servant in the first place. You've talked about it on the campaign trail. I highlighted some aspects of your background. What do you want people watching right now to know about who you are today, how your background will shape how you plan to govern if you're elected?
Well, I appreciate that. And, I had a rough growing up, in a rough foundation, but that foundation, it doesn't necessarily define who or what your future will be. Now, that foundation does help me of how I govern. That's one of the reasons why we've invested in affordable housing, over $50 million, as well as into Housing First. And because of that work, Milwaukee County has been recognized of having the lowest unsheltered homeless count per capita than any community in America. When we were fighting to bring back opioid settlement funds, we invested those dollars back into the community because I know what my parents went through and seen them with their struggle and understand how, when you're kicking your addiction, it's a lifelong journey. And so because of that work, we reduced overdose deaths by 40% in just 4 short years. And so I govern in understanding that there's a struggle that many people are facing all across this state. It doesn't matter if you live in an urban, suburban, or rural community. Trauma doesn't have race affected. It doesn't matter about your socioeconomics or what zip code you grew up in. And so with my background, I just want to make sure that when the tide rises, all the boats rise. Because I was always told, if you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu. And so many communities across this state feel like they've been on the menu. And it's my job to empower them and to include them throughout this process.